Hi, my name is Dave, also known as Diamondback Manhunter, and I am going to show you how to make the awesome Danger Zone bass sound. So, here's how to do it. I use FM8 a lot, and I am just going to clear and bring up a new patch. For reference, since I've saved it, here is what it sounds like. So, once again, just go to a new sound. The reason that we're using an FM8 is because it was originally played on a Yamaha DX7. It was not played on an actual electric bass. And so here's how I figured out how to do it. I don't know how it was originally programmed on the DX7. The DX7 had 36 matrices, so different configurations of how the operators ran into one another, and which were carriers and which were modulators. So I don't have that information. I did hear, or I did see online, that somebody thought that that came from the factory preset called Bass 1. So I pulled up Bass 1. Here is what that sounds like. And while that's a great analog bass sound, I would say, for synthwave kind of outrun music, it is not the Danger Zone bass sound. So, pull up a new patch, and I will show you a new sound, how to make Danger Zone. So, the way that I conceptualize it is that there are two parts to that sound. There is the lower part, and then there is the upper part. And the upper part is very kind of metallic-y. And the lower part has this kind of deep growl to it, but also metallic. And that's really... I know that's a very subjective and unscientific way of describing the sound. So, yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. So I use B as my primary modulator. I'll turn F off. I'll turn everything off. And so I set B at 0.5. What do I get? Well, not much. I can't hear much. And the reason I can't hear much is because I've turned B all the way off. So that's kind of high, even at 0.5, right? If we were at 1. Oh, I was on A. So I am hearing B, so 0.5. But you know what? We're doing the lower part, the bassy part of the bass right now. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and pitch the entire thing down 12 semitones. Now let's hear it. Alright, that's something we can start off with. Okay. So, I'm also, since I'm here, I'm going to manipulate the pitch envelope. I'm going to pull this up, and this is how you can get a really cool pluck sound. This is really good in drums as well, if you're synthesizing drums. Is to give it a very short decay and pull the envelope up. And so, to pronounce it more, just so you can hear what I'm trying to do. Make sure the level is 0, which on this thing is halfway. Actually, that's pretty good. I'm going to keep that. Alright? Now, first thing we got to do is set the envelope. My other carrier is going to be F, so I'm going to set B and F. I'm going to link them. And it's a pluck bass. Bow, 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 bow. Which means that what this is essentially a picture of what happens when we press a key down over time. in terms of the volume. So we're going to keep B. This means that the sound immediately starts and then decays down to nothing exponentially. I'm going to lift that up so it's not so bad. So decay E, let's say. And now let's listen to it. Alright, pretty good. Pretty good start. And now we get into the FM part. So there's still something lower, right, on that bass. So the reason I gave a ratio of 0.5, let me explain ratios for a second. So the way that FM typically operates is in ratios of a fundamental frequency. The fundamental frequency is the sine wave that you normally hear, and then and that's determined by which key that you press on the keyboard, right? So if I'm giving a ratio of 0.5, I'm saying give me half of that frequency. So A440, A3 is 440 on a piano. And on my electric keyboard, now it's playing, well, I already reduced the synthesizer by 12 semitones, so it's an octave down. So what we know about the harmonic series is that octaves means double the frequency. So this is half the frequency, so we've already half the frequency by lowering it 12 semitones, so that's 220. And then I've cut that in half because I've given a ratio of 0.5. So it's 110 hertz, and all we're going to see is a sine wave at 110 hertz. And that's what that looks like. And in fact, if we pull up an EQ on here, this is just the FabFilter Pro Q, and I'm not gonna do anything with this, but I am going to press freeze. I press A. And it's giving some, it's not giving us a pure sine wave, a pure fundamental, because of the pitch, and also because of our, if we look at the master, there are 8 voices of polyphony and some detune on as well. So we're not there yet, so don't worry about that for right now. Just know essentially it's a sine wave at 110 hertz if we play an A3. And I don't know if you can hear it, but this actually is a really cool way that you could use to make a synthesized kick drum. You know, if you play it even lower, that's an 808. Anyway, let's go back to the operators. Go to expert view. So A, I'm going to give it even half of that, but we're not going to hear A, we're just going to hear the effects that A has when it's modulating the phase of B. This is called frequency modulation, but it's really phase modulation because that's how you change frequency. And I'm going to give A, if we're looking at the envelope, give it a pluck. And so can't hear it yet because I'm not running it into it. Yeah, there we go. So now we really got like a sub bass kind of thing going on. It sounds really great, I think. Okay. And then C. And C I'm also going to set to 0.5. Now something you should know about the ratios of in FM synthesis is if we have a ratio of 1 to 1, meaning we're modulating a sine wave or we're modulating a sine wave by a sine wave of the same frequency, that is going to give us the resulting wave is going to have sawtooth harmonics, which means that the harmonics that we see, which we can see here on the spectrum, is going to be all of the harmonics. Sawtooth harmonics has every single harmonic. If we modulate something with even numbers, I believe, so ratios of 2 to 1, 4 to 1, anything like that, what we're going to get are square harmonics. And square is all the odd harmonics. So you can actually see that. I'll turn off B just for a second. This is my 4-second FM course. So E is just gated, so turn off our pitch envelope, pull this down so we're not getting that, just turn that to 0. Now you just have a pure sine wave at 1, right? Alright, if I run a sine wave at 1, so the exact same sine wave into it, oops, so D, run that into E, this is sawtooth harmonics, and we can pull up the spectrums so you can actually see what happens. I'll just record a note. Because I am a right-handed person, so now it's just playing this pure tone. If we look at our thing, that's our sine wave, right? And we see it only has one harmonic. If we further go here, turn the resolution up to maximum very fast. As I run a sine wave into it of the same frequency, we get saw harmonics, and you can see that's every single, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and if we keep going, it goes all the way up. We can also feed E back into itself. That also gives us sawtooth harmonics, because that's essentially, we're doing the same thing. Alright, if I pitch D to 2, however, we get square harmonics. And we look at the spectrum, pitch this up. Yep, that's a square wave right there, right? So you can actually see the waveform. And it is 1, 3, 5, and 7. Alright, so I'm not talking about the waveforms. We can make the waveforms with these. I'm talking about the harmonics that the waveforms produce. Alright, so that's my 5-second, longer than that. And you could see the effect that that had on there. Okay, well, for CPU's sake, let's turn this off, not that it matters. Alright, so we pitched A at 25. Alright, and we pitch C at 5, and once again we're going to give C an envelope. It's got a nice kind of plucky bass sound. If we go back to pitch, hold this back up. Alright, so I'd say that's a pretty good bass so far. Now if we turn on F, keep F at a ratio of 1, because this is going to be the upper part of the bass. And I'm going to turn this on, turn B off for now. So now we're just hearing our plain sine wave. We're going to run E into F, and we're going to set E at a ratio of 9 to 1. And we are going to manipulate the envelope of E as such. Now let's hear what that sounds like. So 9 to 1 gives us those upper harmonics and just little plucks, you know. That's the idea. We hear the sine wave, and at the very beginning of the sine wave, we're hearing the effects of a 9 to 1 modulation. Pull that down, and that's what it looks like. Okay. D, we are going to give it a ratio of 5 to 1, and pull this and run this also into F. And let's give D an envelope. Same, we got a pluck sound. Okay. So, turn on our B. Not quite there yet. I want to hear less of F. I want to hear less of that high end. Alright, so once again, not quite there. One thing we can do though, since we can run anything into anything else, is use our carrier, F, to modulate carrier B and its modulators. So I'm just going to run a very small amount into C, 13. Also run a bit into B. And into A. And let's hear what happens. Alright, now we're very close, I would say. And so that's very... I want to hear a little less F still. In fact, I don't need to hear F at all. But I'll keep like 5, just a tiny. Alright. A few more things we can do to make this sound even better is add an envelope. But we're adding an envelope in parallel. So we're not putting an envelope over the whole thing, we're just putting an envelope over a bit of it and running it, and you'll see the reason that we do this. So I'm going to just put 10 into Z. Z is our envelope in FM8, and 63. And so now we have this envelope running in parallel, and not very much, but here's the reason. I'm going to pull the mix down, so we're just hearing the top filter. Filter, not envelope, forgive me. Pull the cutoff up, pull the resolution, pull the resonance up. Doesn't matter what we do with 2. Pull out the envelope amount, and then give the envelope, pull that down, give it a pluck. And so now, the reason I did this was for this resonance over here, which is a plucky sound. Alright, and just to give you an idea, if we take those away, gives that really high high frequency energy there. We just pull that down a little bit, maybe to 50 and then pull our 63 on B and 10 on F. Alright, so we're very, very close. There's a few more things I want to do. I'm going to go over to effects and, strangely enough, add a reverb. Turn the wet all the way up. Right? Sounds crazy. We're going to pull down the time so we're in a smaller room. Alright, this is a little more manageable. And pull the bright either up or down. I would say up, and then pull the treble down. So maybe pull the treble up. And then pull it down. We could even add in a little more. Alright, and maybe even put a flanger. Sync it, pull the rate down, just the depth up, pull the color down, and then rotate it just a little and pull down the dry wet. If we put the dry wet all the way up, it's going to flange a little too much. Let's pull the rate up. And then pull the dry wet down. And that's all we really need to do for effects. I'm going to go to the Master tab and see what we can do here. Now, for polyphony, I use 12 voices. That's not really changing that much. Pull the detune up. And I'm going to stack 3 voices on each key. So 3 voices of unison, keep dynamic checked, even pull it up even more and give it a little pat. I might pull that flanger back down, or even turn it off. Alright. The last thing I want to do is pull up this digital. And what this does is the Yamaha DX7 was 12 bits. So right now, if I pull this down, we're just operating FM8 in full 32-bit floating point resolution, right? So it's very, very accurate. So we're going to add in some bit distortion character. And this goes from 1 to 100, so I don't know. You'd have to figure out what 12 to 32 is. So 2 point something. Or 12 divided by 32 is 120. So it's like 40. It's around 40. All right, that's just about it. I want to hear some more is he a pluck pitch envelope? I like that one. I want to hear more bass, so what I'm going to do is pull up A, because that's our lowest pitched operator. And pull it down a little bit, and then maybe even give it some output. And there we go. That's how to make the Danger Zone bass. You can add compression and distortion to taste, but you don't have to. I like to mix into compressors, so I'll put the EQ here, and if I'm just recording it, and that's the essential pattern. Quantize that. There we go. So now I just loop this, or not. I'm an idiot. Notes. And pull that up to 150. And we can use Logic stuff. That's fine. So pull out a compressor. And a compressor could be really cool here because we could add to kind of that plucky sound. I would say use this classic VCA because this is an emulation of the DBX 160, which is actually a drum compressor for kick drums and snares and stuff like that, but why not use it here? Pull the threshold down. Put on soft distortion and pull the mix down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And I'll just use a channel EQ. Pull this up. All right, so I think we're getting close. That's very, very similar as far as I can tell from my memory. One more thing we can do, and this is really cool, is parallel compression. So I'm going to add a bus send, and I'm going to send 100%, and I'm just going to call this comp or pcomp. See it on the mixer, right? So it's just an auxiliary track. We can actually create a track for it if we want to. And on here I'm going to put a compressor, give it a vintage VCA, which is an emulation, I believe, of the G-Bus compressor, the SSL. Pull this up to like 8. Actually, SSL was, if we really want to get freaky, pull it up to 10, because the SSL has ratios of 2, 4, and 10, so 10's the highest. Take off auto gain, but keep on auto release, because the SSL does have an auto option. And then pull up the release a lot, pull down the attack, and pull down the threshold, and we'll see what happens. Actually, I'm going to pull this all the way down too, and pull up the distortion. Alright, so 20 decibels. And then we're not hearing anything because I pull down the master fader, which is good because that would have been really loud. Right? So we're not hearing the effects yet. I'm going to add in afterwards an EQ, and I'm just going to bring up the high end and bring up the low end. Maybe at like 300 by 6 decibels. So give it a smile. Turn off the analyzer. Alright, I'd say that's pretty cool. If we wanted to keep doing it, because I'm a crazy person. So we're going to want to add some saturation to it. This is just how I would do it. But the sound is already made, so if you want to turn the video off, go for it. But I would add... Well, there's a few ways to go about it. It sounds so plucky, I would use like a bass amp for the saturation. Logic has a really cool bass amp, but if you have amplitude, they have one too. Pull the output to 0. We're doing it in parallel because I like that. And so one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a gain plugin. It's under utility, gain. And I'm just going to phase invert this. So I'm just checking the phase correlation to see if we invert the phase of that, what happens. I'm going to do the same thing here on the... Just to make sure, since we're running things in parallel, that we're not having phase shift problems. If I wanted to deepen up the bass, there's one more thing I could do. You could do this with RBass or Max Bass, which are Waves plugins. But if you wanted to do it in Logic using stock plugins, they actually have, if we go over to Specialized, they have a sub-bass thing. So let's hear what happens. And since we're doing it, we want 0, and we just want 100% of the wet signal. doesn't matter. Pull the wet all the way up just so you get the full effect, because we're going to use this fader. Anyway, we're just going to say amp. We're going to call this sub bass distortion. Let's create tracks for these. Call that danger bass or whatever you want. Give it a little nice or actually DX7 for the amp. Let's go over to our bass amp, sub bass distortion. That's a sound effect, so that, and P comp is another effect. There we go. And then let's give it a better color. Oops, duplicated it. Let's say orange. Orange is the color for bass. We're gonna, oops. All right. Pull that down. And then finally, just create a track stack. Color it with Alt-C, orange, and then danger bass. Give it our DX7 little icon. Alright, and there we go. And I actually did this for a specific reason. And close this project. We don't have to save it. So for my next album, I'm actually going to be it's going to be called Just the Classics, and it's going to be an album of cover songs. And so I'm doing all the music for it now, and then I'm either going to sing or get other people to sing on it. And so far done like Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, Africa by Toto, Danger Zone, Kenny Loggins, and I'm right now I'm working on Maniac. So here's the music, and just so you can hear. There you go. It's supposed to be like note for note. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something. And if you did, give this a like and subscribe, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And I hope to be doing more of these. So analyzing sounds, famous sounds, and showing you how to make them. This was FM8 specific. I don't think it could translate 100% to a DX7, the actual synthesizer, not a soft synth, but you can use the principles of that and create something similar using any FM synth. So thanks for watching.